Ladies and gentlemen, first let me say how honored I am to stand here and speak about a topic that touches the very heart of our humanity: relationships. And not just any relationship, but the sacred bond of marriage. Now, let me make something clear right out of the gate. This isn't a sermon about right and wrong. This is about understanding. It's about lifting the veil on what's really at the core of our objection, not the act of divorce itself, but how we justify it. Let's take a little walk through history. Divorce wasn't always what it is today. In some societies, it was unheard of. In others, it was restricted, frowned upon, or even punishable. But as the world turned, laws changed, cultures shifted, and people began to recognize that sometimes marriages do fail. And that's okay. What's not okay is when we hide behind weak excuses instead of owning our truth. Here's the heart of it, folks. It's not about saying divorce is bad. It's about saying, why are you divorcing? What is the story you're telling yourself and others? Are we walking away because we've done all we can and learned all we could, or are we running because it's easier to quit than to grow? That's the question. You see, marriage is a commitment. It's not a contract you can cancel because you found a better offer. It's a promise, a foundation. And when that foundation cracks, it doesn't just affect two people. It ripples out to families, friends, and even society. Divorce is not just a personal decision. It's a community matter. Now let's talk about personal responsibility. Look, I get it. Relationships are hard work. There are days you'll laugh together and days you'll cry alone. But the easy road, avoiding tough conversations, ignoring the cracks, that's not the road to growth. If we want to see stronger marriages, we've got to see stronger individuals. People willing to reflect, willing to take accountability for their part in the story. And when divorce does become the choice, because yes, sometimes it is the right choice, we need to ask ourselves, what did I learn here? How will I do better moving forward? Justification without growth is an empty excuse. The history of divorce is deeply tied to the evolution of societal norms, legal structures, and cultural expectations surrounding marriage. To understand the current views on divorce, it's crucial to step back in time and observe how divorce was treated by various cultures, religions, and legal systems throughout history. In ancient times, divorce was largely a matter of power and property. In many societies, women had few rights, and the concept of marriage was often seen as an arrangement for the consolidation of wealth, status, or alliances. In ancient Rome, for example, divorce was relatively straightforward, especially for men who could unilaterally end a marriage if it no longer served them. The status of women in these cultures was generally subordinate, and their freedom to initiate divorce was limited or non. In the early stages of Christianity, divorce was viewed with significant moral and religious opposition. Christian doctrine, especially as it was interpreted by the Catholic Church, regarded marriage as a sacrament and, as such, indissoluble. The idea that marriage was a lifelong commitment was reinforced by religious teachings, and divorce was forbidden. The Catholic Church in medieval Europe played a dominant role in shaping these views. However, during this period, annulments, a form of dissolution of marriage, became more common, particularly in cases where the marriage was deemed to have been invalid from the start. This created a loophole for those seeking to end a marriage, but it did not equate to the modern concept of divorce as a social institution. As time progressed and societies evolved, so did the concept of divorce. The Reformation in the 16th century, which saw the rise of Protestant denominations, brought a shift in views on marriage and divorce. Reformers like Martin Luther argued that divorce could be justified in cases of adultery or abandonment, thereby opening the door to a more flexible view of marital dissolution. The Protestant Reformation laid the groundwork for divorce to be seen not as a sin, but as a permissible act under certain circumstances. The 19th and 20th centuries saw significant shifts in attitudes toward divorce, particularly with the rise of industrialization and modern legal systems. In many Western countries, the legal process for divorce became more formalized, offering people more control over their marital fate. Divorce laws began to evolve, with more countries allowing divorce on grounds such as infidelity, abuse, or abandonment. As society began to place greater emphasis on individual autonomy and personal fulfillment, divorce became increasingly seen as a necessary option for those in unhappy or abusive marriages. In the United States, for example, the 20th century witnessed a dramatic increase in divorce rates, particularly after the introduction of no-fault divorce laws in the 1960s. Before this, divorce required proving wrongdoing or fault by one of the parties, often leading to contentious legal battles. The introduction of no-fault divorce allowed individuals to seek divorce without having to assign blame, marking a monumental shift in how divorce was viewed by society and the legal system. Divorce was no longer stigmatized as a personal failure, but was recognized as a legitimate way to end a marriage when it no longer served its intended purpose. The global shift in attitudes toward divorce reflects a broader trend in which individual rights and personal fulfillment became central to societal values. Today, divorce is no longer a rare or highly stigmatized event, and it is increasingly seen as a part of the human experience. However, the historical context of divorce, shaped by power structures, religious beliefs, and evolving legal frameworks, has left a lasting impact on how people view marriage, commitment, and the reasons for divorce. In the present day, while divorce is more accepted and accessible than ever before, it remains a topic of moral and ethical debate. Some argue that the ease of divorce has contributed to the weakening of family structures, while others contend that it provides an opportunity for individuals to escape unhealthy relationships. What remains clear is that divorce, as we understand it today, has undergone a long and complex journey shaped by a wide range of historical, cultural, and legal forces. Understanding this history allows us to better appreciate the complexities of divorce in modern society. When we discuss divorce, it's essential to examine the core of the objection that many people have toward it. The objection is often not to the act of divorce itself, but to the reasons given for it, the justifications that accompany it. In a society that increasingly accepts divorce as a reality of modern life, it's vital to consider not only the act of ending a marriage, but the rationale behind that decision. To begin, it's important to distinguish between two perspectives: the objection to divorce as a general concept and the objection to the justifications offered for divorce. The former is often rooted in societal, cultural, or religious beliefs about marriage being a lifelong, sacred commitment. In many traditional views, marriage is seen as an unbreakable bond that should not be dissolved under any circumstances. Sometimes, marriages face a certain deathlock commitment or a hope that certain safety nets or other reliable bonds would screen it out. In these perspectives, divorce is viewed not only as a failure of the relationship, but as a failure of moral or spiritual values. However, as we move forward and recognize that not all marriages are built to last, the focus begins to shift. The core of the objection in many cases is not the concept of divorce itself, but the reasons people give to justify it. These justifications often reveal deeper societal beliefs, values, and pressures that shape the way individuals perceive their marital obligations. Take, for instance, the common justification that we just grew apart. This reason for divorce has become increasingly common in contemporary society. While it may sound reasonable at face value, it reveals an underlying issue with how we approach relationships. Growing apart is often interpreted as an inevitable outcome of the passage of time or the changing priorities of individuals. While change is natural, the notion of growing apart sometimes implies a lack of effort to evolve together or communicate through the challenges that naturally arise in any long-term partnership. This justification suggests that the relationship was not adequately nurtured or that both parties failed to remain engaged in one another's growth and transformation. Another frequently cited justification for divorce is the belief that a person is not happy in the marriage anymore. While personal happiness is a valid concern in any relationship, it's important to interrogate what happiness means in the context of marriage. Is happiness a fleeting emotion that can be pursued and abandoned at will? Or is it the result of enduring work, mutual sacrifice, and shared goals? This justification raises critical questions about the expectations we place on marriage. Is it realistic to expect constant happiness from a lifelong commitment? And when that happiness falters, does that automatically mean the relationship is no longer worth preserving? Moreover, some justifications for divorce rest on the notion of personal fulfillment. Individuals may justify ending their marriage because they feel they have outgrown their partner or their life together no longer reflects their personal goals or ambitions. This perspective often stems from a broader cultural emphasis on self-actualization and individualism. While personal growth is important, it's essential to consider whether the pursuit of individual fulfillment can coexist with the responsibility and compromise inherent in a long-term partnership. If personal goals become a justification for divorce, it risks reducing the relationship to a transactional nature, where each person seeks personal gain rather than shared happiness and growth. In cases of infidelity or abuse, the justification for divorce becomes clearer. These are situations where the harm caused to one party may be irreparable. In such cases, divorce may be seen as an act of self-preservation and reclaiming personal dignity and safety. These scenarios highlight the need to distinguish between justifiable reasons for divorce and those that arise from less tangible, more subjective justifications like unhappiness or unmet expectations. Ultimately, the core of the objection is not that divorce exists, but that the reasons people give for it too often lack depth, reflection, or understanding of the underlying issues. When people approach divorce as a quick fix to the complexities of human relationships, the very act of ending a marriage can be oversimplified. The objection is not to the reality of divorce, but to the notion that divorce should be justified without first examining the long-term consequences, both personal and societal. Understanding the justification behind divorce can help individuals make more thoughtful, responsible decisions, and it can encourage a shift toward a more conscious approach to relationships, one that values communication, growth, and responsibility. Divorce, as a personal and legal decision, is not only a matter of legal and emotional considerations, but is also deeply embedded in moral and ethical frameworks. The ethics surrounding divorce are complex and multifaceted, shaped by cultural, religious, and philosophical beliefs. While divorce itself is often viewed as a necessary option in certain circumstances, the justifications given for it raise significant ethical concerns that go beyond the individual situation and touch on broader societal values. One of the most prominent ethical concerns tied to divorce is the concept of commitment. In many cultures, particularly those influenced by religious or traditional values, marriage is seen as a lifelong covenant, a bond that should not be broken unless there are extreme circumstances. The idea of commitment in marriage is not simply about staying together for the sake of convenience, but about fulfilling promises made to another person, to society, and often to a higher power. From an ethical standpoint, ending a marriage without a compelling reason can be seen as violating this commitment. It raises questions about the importance of promises and whether modern society has become too quick to abandon its obligations when things get tough. When individuals justify divorce on grounds of personal dissatisfaction or changing needs, the ethical question becomes, have they fully honored their commitment, or have they chosen personal happiness over the responsibility of partnership? Moreover, there is the ethical issue of how divorce impacts children. In societies where family units are valued, children are often seen as the most vulnerable parties in a divorce. Divorce can disrupt their emotional and psychological development, especially if it is not handled with care and sensitivity. The ethical dilemma here lies in whether individuals are justified in ending a marriage when the consequences for children might be significant. While some argue that staying in an unhappy or dysfunctional marriage can cause more harm to children than divorce, others contend that divorce should only be considered when the well-being of children is fully taken into account. The challenge lies in finding the balance between personal well-being and the ethical responsibility to children who may not have the capacity to understand or cope with the complexities of their parents' decisions. There is also an ethical dimension related to fairness and justice in the process of divorce. In situations where one partner has been abusive, deceitful, or unfaithful, divorce may be a justifiable response to safeguard the well-being of the injured party. Ethical concerns arise, however, when divorce is pursued for reasons that seem more self-serving than justifiable, such as a desire for greater freedom or material gain. The fairness of the division of assets, child custody, and alimony can all come into question, as the ethical implications of how individuals approach the legal aspects of divorce extend far beyond the emotional turmoil of the situation. The pursuit of justice during divorce proceedings can become complicated, especially when it involves power imbalances between the parties involved. Divorce also raises questions about the ethics of individualism and personal responsibility. In modern individualistic societies, people are often encouraged to prioritize their own happiness, fulfillment, and well-being. This can make it more difficult to navigate the moral complexities of divorce. Is it ethical for one person to leave a marriage simply because they are unhappy, even if the other partner has not committed any wrongdoing? Should personal fulfillment be the primary ethical driver behind the decision to divorce, or should the focus be on shared responsibility, compromise, and sacrifice? From an ethical perspective, the pursuit of individual happiness is often considered a noble goal, but when it comes at the expense of another person's emotional well-being, the ethical ramifications are significant. It calls into question whether the sanctity of marriage, both the partnership and the commitment to the other person, should be upheld at all costs, or whether personal desires should take precedence. The ethical concerns surrounding divorce also touch on the broader social implications. Divorce can reflect broader trends in society, such as the changing views on marriage and family structure. While divorce is more accepted than it once was, the ethical question remains. Does this increased acceptance of divorce signify a weakening of social values, or does it reflect a growing recognition that relationships need to be based on mutual respect, love, and fulfillment, rather than societal expectations? Divorce, in this context, can be seen as a necessary response to a relationship that is no longer healthy. However, if divorce is too easily justified without considering the emotional, social, and financial consequences for all parties involved, there is an ethical concern that we may be losing sight of the long-term implications of our choices. Divorce is not just an individual or familial event, it is a societal one. The decision to end a marriage, especially in a society where family is often considered the cornerstone of community, reverberates far beyond the two people involved. The impact of divorce on families and communities is profound and complex, and the justifications provided for divorce often influence how these impacts are perceived and managed. At the heart of the issue is the family structure itself. Historically, the family unit has been seen as the primary source of emotional support, socialization, and economic stability. The disruption of this unit through divorce can lead to a cascade of effects, not only on the individuals involved, but on the broader family network as well. Children, for instance, are often seen as the most vulnerable group affected by divorce. The emotional and psychological toll on children can be significant as they experience a shift in their primary living arrangements, a change in parental dynamics, and sometimes a complete upheaval of their understanding of familial relationships. The way divorce is justified, whether it's based on personal unhappiness, infidelity, or incompatibility, can influence how children perceive the concept of relationships, commitment, and family. For example, when children witness their parents justify divorce through vague reasons such as, "we grew apart" or "we weren't happy anymore," they may come to view relationships as transient or disposable. This can impact how they approach their own future relationships, possibly leading them to undervalue commitment or see marriage as something that can be easily dissolved when things get difficult. Moreover, children may internalize the conflict or emotional fallout from divorce, especially if there is little effort made to shield them from the negative aspects of the breakup. In some cases, children might feel they are to blame for the divorce, leading to feelings of guilt, confusion, and anxiety. The emotional distress caused by divorce can have long-lasting effects on children's self-esteem and mental health. These factors can carry into adulthood, influencing their own relationships, family dynamics, and overall worldview. But the impact of divorce doesn't end with the immediate family. It extends to the extended family, friends, and wider community. Grandparents, aunts, uncles, and close friends often find themselves caught in the crossfire, trying to support family members while navigating the tension and division caused by the separation. Divorce can create rifts within extended families, as different sides may align with one parent or the other, leading to estrangement or strained relationships that last long after the divorce is finalized. From a community perspective, divorce can have a ripple effect on social cohesion. In tight-knit communities where family ties often form the basis of social networks and support systems, divorce can disrupt not only familial relationships, but also social structures. For instance, the dissolution of marriages can lead to a shift in economic stability. Single-parent households, especially those with children, often face financial difficulties, and this can affect their ability to participate in community events, access resources, or maintain the same level of social engagement. Communities may also experience a shift in how marriage and family are valued. In societies where divorce is seen as a failure or a moral shortcoming, the justifications given for divorce can shape how communities react to and support divorced individuals. If divorce is seen as the result of selfishness or irresponsibility, it may lead to stigmatization and isolation. Conversely, in societies where divorce is more accepted, it may be viewed as a necessary and even positive step in certain circumstances, such as when it removes individuals from unhealthy or abusive situations. In this case, the community may offer greater emotional and social support to divorced individuals, helping them rebuild and reintegrate into society. The justifications for divorce can also influence broader societal attitudes about marriage and relationships. As divorce becomes more common, especially in societies that value individual autonomy and personal happiness, there is a risk that the institution of marriage may lose some of its significance. If divorce is increasingly seen as a simple and justified solution to relationship problems, the concept of marriage as a lifelong commitment may erode. This could lead to a cultural shift where relationships are viewed more transactionally, with the expectation that if one partner fails to meet the other's needs, the relationship is no longer worth maintaining. However, it is also important to recognize that divorce can have positive effects on families and communities in certain contexts. When individuals leave abusive, toxic, or unfulfilling relationships, they can create healthier environments for themselves and their children. In these cases, divorce may serve as a liberating and empowering choice, fostering personal growth, emotional healing, and the potential for healthier future relationships. The impact on the community can also be seen in the resources and support systems that evolve in response to the rise of divorce rates. As divorce becomes more common, communities have developed programs and services to help individuals navigate the emotional, financial, and practical challenges that arise. Counseling, legal aid, and co-parenting workshops can provide essential support for those experiencing divorce, ultimately helping to create stronger, more resilient individuals who can contribute positively to their communities. Effective communication is often cited as the foundation of a healthy relationship, and its breakdown is one of the leading causes of divorce. While divorce is sometimes unavoidable, the justifications for ending a marriage frequently reveal that poor communication was at the root of many issues. Understanding the role communication plays in a relationship and how its failure contributes to divorce offers valuable insights into both the reasons people divorce and the ways to prevent it. At its core, communication in a marriage involves more than just exchanging words. It encompasses the ability to share thoughts, emotions, goals, and concerns openly and respectfully. When communication is healthy, it fosters trust, emotional intimacy, and problem solving. Conversely, when communication deteriorates, misunderstandings, resentment, and emotional distance often follow. The breakdown in communication is not always dramatic or immediate. It can be subtle and gradual, eroding the connection between partners over time. One of the most significant ways poor communication contributes to divorce is through unresolved conflict. Every relationship experiences conflict, but the way couples handle disagreements often determines the health and longevity of their partnership. Constructive communication involves listening actively, expressing feelings without blame, and working together to find solutions. When this process is absent, conflict tends to escalate or fester, creating an environment where both partners feel unheard and unsupported. Over time, the inability to resolve disagreements can lead to a breakdown in trust and respect, making divorce seem like the only viable option. The way couples justify divorce often highlights the consequences of poor communication. For instance, "we grew apart" is a common explanation, but this often masks deeper issues of neglect and miscommunication. Growing apart usually means that partners have stopped sharing their lives with one another. Whether it's discussing daily experiences, future plans, or personal struggles. This lack of communication can lead to emotional disconnection, where partners feel more like strangers than teammates. Without open dialogue, the emotional distance can become insurmountable, leading to the justification that the relationship no longer serves either party. Another justification tied to communication breakdown is unmet emotional needs. When one or both partners feel that their needs for love, appreciation, or validation are not being met, it can create feelings of frustration and resentment. Often, these unmet needs are the result of unexpressed expectations or a failure to truly listen to one another. For example, one partner might expect more emotional support or shared responsibilities, but may not effectively communicate these desires. The other partner, unaware of these expectations, might continue their behavior, leaving both parties dissatisfied. Over time, the lack of communication about these needs can lead to feelings of neglect and ultimately the decision to divorce. Infidelity is another example where communication breakdown often plays a significant role. While the act of betrayal is usually the immediate justification for divorce, it is often preceded by a failure to address underlying issues in the marriage. Partners who cheat frequently cite emotional disconnection or feeling unappreciated as their reasons for seeking fulfillment outside the relationship. These issues often stem from a lack of honest communication about their feelings and frustrations, which, if addressed earlier, might have prevented the breach of trust. Healthy communication also plays a crucial role in navigating life changes which can place significant stress on a marriage. Whether it's a career shift, the arrival of children, or financial challenges, life transitions often require couples to renegotiate their roles, responsibilities, and expectations. When communication is poor, these transitions can lead to misunderstandings and unmet expectations, increasing the likelihood of dissatisfaction and eventually divorce. The justification for divorce in these cases often boils down to the perception that the couple could not handle the stress or work as a team, which is frequently rooted in a failure to communicate effectively during challenging times. The role of communication in justifying divorce is also evident in the way individuals discuss their reasons for ending the marriage. People often frame their justifications in terms of what was lacking or went wrong in the relationship, much of which ties back to how well they communicated. Whether it's a lack of emotional connection, unresolved conflict, or unmet needs, the underlying issue is often the inability to engage in honest and effective dialogue. However, it's essential to recognize that poor communication is not always the fault of one partner or the other. It's often a systemic issue within the relationship. Factors such as upbringing, personality differences, and external stressors can all impact communication styles. For example, someone raised in a family that avoided conflict may struggle to address disagreements in their marriage, while their partner might perceive their silence as indifference. Understanding these dynamics can help couples address communication issues before they escalate. Divorce is a deeply personal decision, but it is also one that comes with significant consequences: emotional, social, and financial. While society has grown more accepting of divorce, there remains a need for a balanced perspective, recognizing when divorce is a necessary step for the well-being of individuals involved, and when it might be avoidable through effort, communication, and mutual understanding. In certain circumstances, divorce is not just justified, it is essential. Cases of abuse, neglect, or chronic infidelity create environments that are harmful, even dangerous, for one or both partners. In such situations, staying in the marriage can result in prolonged emotional, physical, or psychological damage. Here, divorce acts as a means of liberation and protection, allowing individuals to reclaim their dignity, safety, and peace. In these scenarios, the justification for divorce is clear and unequivocal. It is a step toward restoring health and well-being. However, not all divorces arise from situations of clear harm or wrongdoing. Many divorces occur due to reasons that are less defined: lack of fulfillment, growing apart, or dissatisfaction with how the relationship has evolved. In these cases, the question becomes whether the issues at hand can be resolved or mitigated through intervention, effort, or change. A balanced perspective involves recognizing that relationships are dynamic and require ongoing investment to thrive. Problems that seem insurmountable in the moment may, with time and effort, become opportunities for growth and reconnection. For instance, feelings of disconnection or dissatisfaction often stem from unmet needs or unresolved misunderstandings. These issues can sometimes be addressed through open communication, counseling, or a renewed commitment to the relationship. Couples who take the time to explore the root causes of their struggles may find that the effort to rebuild their relationship not only resolves their immediate concerns, but also strengthens their bond for the future. Avoiding divorce in these cases isn't about enduring an unhappy marriage. It's about recognizing the potential for healing and transformation. A balanced perspective also requires an acknowledgement of the societal pressures and unrealistic expectations that can influence marital dissatisfaction. Modern culture often emphasizes personal happiness and self-fulfillment, sometimes at the expense of shared goals and mutual sacrifice. Marriage, however, is inherently about compromise and collaboration. It involves navigating challenges together, even when it's difficult. When divorce is considered as a solution to unmet expectations, it's worth questioning whether those expectations were realistic or whether the relationship might be preserved through a shift in perspective or priorities. It is equally important to address the role of external influences, such as societal norms, family pressures, or cultural expectations, in shaping how people perceive marriage and divorce. In some cases, individuals may feel compelled to remain in a marriage due to fear of judgment or stigma, even when the relationship is toxic or unviable. Conversely, in societies where divorce is more normalized, individuals might feel less inclined to invest effort in resolving marital issues, viewing divorce as an easy or inevitable solution. A balanced perspective requires evaluating the unique circumstances of each marriage, free from external biases or assumptions. Another key consideration in determining whether divorce is necessary or avoidable is the long-term impact of the decision. Divorce often carries significant consequences for children, extended families, and even the individuals themselves. For children, the dissolution of their parents' marriage can result in feelings of instability, confusion, and loss. For adults, divorce can lead to financial strain, loneliness, and a sense of failure. A balanced perspective requires weighing these consequences against the potential benefits of ending the marriage. If the relationship is causing more harm than good, emotionally, physically, or mentally, then divorce may be the right choice. However, if the issues are rooted in temporary struggles or miscommunication, it may be worth exploring solutions before making such a permanent decision. There are also situations where one partner may be more willing to work on the relationship than the other. In such cases, it's crucial to recognize that saving a marriage requires effort from both sides. If one partner is unwilling to engage, change, or take responsibility for their part in the relationship, then the path to reconciliation becomes much more challenging. Divorce in this context may become the only viable option for the other partner to move forward and find peace. Ultimately, a balanced perspective on divorce involves acknowledging its complexity. It is neither inherently right nor wrong, but depends entirely on the circumstances of each individual case. By understanding the difference between when divorce is necessary and when it might be avoidable, individuals can make decisions that are informed, thoughtful, and compassionate. This perspective encourages people to approach their relationships with intention and responsibility, recognizing that while divorce may sometimes be the best choice, it should not be the first resort when challenges arise. The topic of divorce, particularly the justifications surrounding it, is both deeply personal and socially significant. It touches on the values we hold as individuals, the priorities we set in relationships, and the responsibilities we accept within families and communities. Divorce is not simply the end of a marriage. It's a decision that carries emotional, financial, and societal implications that ripple far beyond the couple involved. What becomes evident in exploring this subject is the need for a nuanced and balanced perspective. While there are situations where divorce is a necessary and even empowering choice, there are also instances where it might stem from unresolved conflicts or unrealistic expectations. The justifications for divorce often reflect deeper issues, such as a breakdown in communication, unmet needs, or shifting priorities. Understanding these underlying factors allows individuals to make more informed decisions, whether to end a marriage or work to preserve it. At its core, the question is not whether divorce should exist, it is an acknowledgement that it sometimes must. The challenge lies in ensuring that the decision to divorce is approached with thoughtfulness, integrity, and accountability. Justifications for divorce should not be used to mask avoidable failures, but rather to validate the need for self-respect, safety, or growth. When a marriage can no longer fulfill its essential purpose. As individuals, couples, and communities, we must strive to cultivate environments where relationships can thrive, but also where people feel supported in making the right choices for their well-being. Open communication, realistic expectations, and mutual effort are the cornerstones of healthy marriages. And when these fail, it is essential to recognize that ending a marriage is not necessarily a failure. It can also be a step toward healing and renewal. In navigating the complexities of divorce, we are called to balance empathy and honesty, accountability and compassion. By doing so, we can better understand not only the reasons people choose to part ways, but also the ways we can support one another in building relationships and lives that are truly fulfilling and meaningful.